$13 billion, the USS Gerald R. Ford isn't just the most expensive aircraft carrier ever built. It's the flagship of the most powerful carrier class in human history. A floating city, a nuclear-powered airbase, a weapon designed not only to win wars, but to prevent them by showing up. For the last decade, the Ford represented a level of naval dominance no competitor could realistically challenge. Not Russia, not China, not even close. But now, something has changed, because China has launched a new aircraft carrier that is not just bigger, not just newer, but fundamentally different from the carriers that came before it. A carrier that signals China is no longer learning. China is competing. And the question is simple: is the USS Ford still untouchable, or has China finally built a true contender? This is the story of the US Navy's most feared supercarrier and China's newest flagship, the Type 003 Fujian, and why June 17, 2022 might go down as the day the carrier race entered a new era. China's Fujian was officially launched on June 17, 2022. It is China's third aircraft carrier, and by far its most advanced. It follows two earlier carriers. First, the Type 001 Liaoning, originally a Soviet-era hull acquired from Ukraine and completed by China. Second, the Type 002 Shandong, China's first home-built carrier, largely based on Liaoning's design. But Fujian is different. Fujian is not a learning carrier. It's a statement, because it abandons the outdated design choices that defined both Liaoning and Shandong. Most importantly, it does away with ski jump ramps. Those ramps look impressive. They're simple, they're cheap, but they are also limiting. A ski jump carrier cannot launch heavier aircraft easily. It struggles to launch aircraft with full fuel and weapons. And it limits China's ability to operate true carrier-based early warning planes and heavier support aircraft. That's exactly why Fujian's biggest upgrade is also its loudest signal. China has entered the world of electromagnetic catapult operations. This puts Fujian into a category previously dominated by only one navy, the United States. And that's where the comparison begins. Because if Fujian is China's leap forward, then USS Gerald R. Ford is still the benchmark. The Ford was already the most advanced aircraft carrier on Earth before it even entered service. To build it, the US Navy reportedly had to pause or restructure thousands of other projects across the defense industry. It displaced around 100,000 tons. It introduced 23 major new technologies, and it was designed to define naval warfare for half a century. But what makes it super carrier level isn't just the size, it's the system of systems approach. 5 major pillars separate the Ford from almost every other carrier in the world. First, nuclear power. Inside the USS Ford are 2 Bechtel A-1B nuclear reactors. These are some of the most advanced naval reactors ever built. Their purpose is simple: generate enormous electrical power and allow the ship to operate for decades without refueling. In theory, the Ford can run about 25 years at a time without refueling. And in a full 50-year service life, it may only need to refuel once. That gives the ship something even more valuable than weapons: time, endurance, and freedom of movement. Because a carrier that doesn't depend on fuel logistics becomes more unpredictable and more dangerous. At full power, the Ford can reach roughly 30 knots, fast enough to reposition quickly across the ocean. Second, automation and AI-driven efficiency. The Ford is designed to require fewer sailors than previous carriers. That matters because every sailor on board takes space. Food, living quarters, water, equipment. Less manpower means more space for aircraft operations, weapons storage maintenance systems, and quality-of-life upgrades. It also means the ship can sustain high-intensity operations with reduced strain on the crew. In modern naval warfare, that endurance is lethal. Third, sensors and processing. Older aircraft carriers rely on multiple radar systems doing separate tasks. But the Ford uses advanced multifunction radar arrays that consolidate roles. These systems support surveillance, tracking, targeting, air traffic management, and threat detection. The result is simple: faster decision-making, better awareness, and the ability to manage chaos in the sky with more control. Fourth, the air wing. At full capacity, the USS Ford can operate up to 75 aircraft, sometimes more in emergency surge conditions. That includes carrier-based fighter jets, support aircraft, and unmanned systems. Its top-tier strike fighter is the F-35C, the stealth carrier variant of the Joint Strike Fighter program. And whether you love or hate the F-35, one thing is undeniable: it turns the carrier into a stealth strike platform. It's not just about launching jets anymore. It's about launching sensors, data, electronic warfare, networked targeting. The Ford doesn't just carry aircraft, it carries a flying battle space. And finally, fifth, launch and recovery systems. This is where the Ford class was meant to rewrite carrier operations. Instead of steam catapults, the Ford uses EMALS, the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System. These catapults can launch aircraft with greater control, precision, and efficiency. It also reduces wear on airframes. In theory, EMALS increases sortie generation, meaning more aircraft can take off and land faster, meaning more missions per day, meaning more pressure in combat. And that's the essence of carrier dominance. Sortie rate. Not size, not prestige. Sortie rate. Now combine that with advanced arresting gear for recoveries, and the Ford becomes a machine built not just to project power, but to sustain it at scale. So, if the USS Ford is the peak, where does China's Fujian stand? Fujian is believed to displace around 80,000 tons, roughly 20% lighter than the Ford. That matters because displacement directly affects air wing capacity, fuel storage munitions, storage sustainability, and long-term combat rhythm. Fujian also uses conventional propulsion. This is another major gap. Unlike Ford's nuclear endurance, Fujian must still rely on fuel logistics. That limits range, speed endurance, and operational unpredictability. However, Fujian has something China has never had before: a catapult carrier. And that unlocks the future. It signals the possibility of launching heavier aircraft types. It suggests future early warning aircraft. It suggests higher sortie capability. And it suggests China is building a carrier ecosystem, not just a carrier. But Fujian is not equal to the Ford. Not yet. Most reporting suggests Fujian has 3 electromagnetic catapults. The Ford has 4. Fujian is new and still in development testing cycles. And like any modern flagship, much of its real capability remains classified. But the launch of Fujian doesn't mean China has matched the US. It means China has started walking the road that leads there. And that's what makes it strategically serious. Now what about Russia? Russia has 1 aircraft carrier, 1, and it's over 40 years old. The Admiral Kuznetsov. Before Fujian launched, Kuznetsov was considered the largest conventionally powered carrier in the world. It displaces around 58,000 tons. It carries around 30-40 aircraft depending on configuration. It relies on ski jump ramps, no catapult system, and it has faced major setbacks, accidents, maintenance issues, and prolonged refit cycles. Even its upgrades have become a story of delays and incidents, and that reveals something brutal. Russia is not the competitor in the carrier race anymore. China is. In fact, there's an irony here. China's Liaoning, its first carrier, is essentially related to Kuznetsov in design lineage. But while Russia stagnated, China evolved fast. So now the carrier world looks like this. America, quantity plus quality, with nuclear supercarriers and decades of experience. China, expanding fleet plus fast engineering growth, now entering catapult carrier operations. Russia, symbolic legacy carrier, limited modern competitiveness. Which brings us back to the key question. Does the USS Ford have a Chinese contender? Right now, Fujian is not a Ford killer. But Fujian is a Ford chaser, a foundation, a warning, a sign that China is building not just ships, but the ability to project sustained air power across contested oceans. And that is exactly what aircraft carriers are really about. Not intimidation, not headlines, but control over distance, control over time, control over escalation. For decades, the US held that advantage uncontested. But Fujian proves the era of no competition is ending. Not today, not tomorrow, but inevitably. And the next carriers after Fujian may be far closer to the Ford than most people expect. Because the most dangerous thing in military technology isn't the weapon you see today. It's the learning curve behind it. And China is learning faster than anyone else. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop your opinion below. Is Fujian a real supercarrier challenger, or just China's first step into the big leagues? And if you want more deep dives into military tech that actually matters, make sure you're subscribed, because the carrier race is only getting started. Thanks for watching.